Well, hello everybody and welcome to the Friday live stream. I'm your host, Jesse Showalter. You know that I'm your host because you're on my channel. You're probably a subscriber, but if you're not a subscriber, make sure you hit that little like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell notification icon so you know when live streams like this, they go live, right? You'll be notified. You'll get a little email. You can come and check it out and hang out with me. We have people jumping in the chat. Right now, we are streaming on YouTube, Twitch, Behance, and Facebook. So hello to everybody from all platforms. I can see all your chat. Would love to chat with you today. This is going to be a little bit of a detour. For the last 2 Fridays, we've been doing an Elden Ring companion app design, which has been super fun. But today, I'm going to take a little detour. I'm going to do something a little bit different. We're going to be just working on a little bit of some Webflow stuff, as well as not connected separately. I'm going to show you some personal projects I've been working on and how I've used design systems and libraries and everything inside of certain design programs. And we'll talk a little bit more about which ones I prefer, and you can ask questions. It'll be a lot of fun. Tarabu Art Army says, I'm in your dribble class and here to learn even more. Oh my gosh, Tarabu, you're in the house. You're taking my 12-week certified dribble product design course. That's absolutely amazing. So thank you so much for doing that. If you don't know what that is, this is the 12-week product design course over on Dribbble. And if you sign up for the next cohort, it's closed. You can't sign up right now, but you can sign up for the future one at 40% off. And it's all about learning digital product design hooked into Dribbble's hiring manager network. And you're going to learn everything you need to know in 12 weeks. So I would be excited for you to consider taking that course, but jump on it now because 40% off. You got people like MDS, Jessica Coe, hiring managers from Google. I actually can't tell you, but in the next cohort, we have some different people stopping by, some different guests making cameos through the course. It's going to be really, really exciting. They're going to be talking about all sorts of other things like design systems, which we'll be touching on today. So Ryan says, hello from Ireland. Hello, right back to you. Farouk says, recently discovered the channel, doing amazing work. Keep it up. Thank you. I appreciate the encouragement. That is so awesome. So with that being said, hey, feel free at any time to drop questions inside of the chat, and we'll do these question and answer times like so. And that'll be a lot of fun. We'll be doing that for sure. But besides that, I think first I want to start a little bit with some personal projects I've been working on, but I can't go too much further before I say a little something interesting. So I had a potential client meeting the other day and I ended up not working with the client. So this is just a little design story time. You got your cup of coffee, drink your cup of coffee, hang out and listen to a quick little story. So I was having a meeting with a potential client. And when I go into a meeting with a potential client, I ask lots of questions. If you're a freelancer, ask lots of questions. And as I was asking lots of questions, I realized I don't have the time to put into this type of project. Also, it was like an e-commerce project, and so that would make it a little bit more of a complex project. But the brand was super cool, the product was super cool, and I had a great recommendation, a great resource. So I said, hey, here's a friend of mine who does work like this. I think he would be a much better fit than me for your job. And the guy was so thankful that I wasn't just trying to take advantage of him and land the job myself, but instead I really cared about him. I really wanted him to find the right person. And I felt like I helped to find him the right person, that he sent me bags of his coffee. This is Cooper Cask coffee. This is not a sponsored video at all. He just sent me like pounds of this amazing Cooper Cask coffee, which is bourbon whiskey barrel aged coffee beans. And that is what I'm drinking right now. And it is amazing. So again, not sponsored. I lost this project for this client and sent it to a friend of mine as a recommendation, but the coffee's delicious. So I just wanted to say 2 things. Number 1, maybe try some of this coffee. But number 2, maybe try being awesome to clients and just giving them value no matter what. And there's a little bit of reciprocation that comes back to you because I love coffee. And now that's what I have in my cup right now. Whiskey bourbon barrel aged coffee beans in my latte. So that's just fun little story time. Hey, let's talk about the next thing. If you don't know how much of a nerd I am, I'm kind of a nerd. And in my spare time as a hobby, I'm a huge board gamer. I love hobby board games, complex board games. And I actually, as part of that hobby, I'm trying to design my own board games. And so I have been designing like the rules and the way that board games work, and then I've been building them out in some design programs, and I want to show those to you right now. So I have a board game right now that's done. It's completed. You can play it, and it is like a really fun like dice placement game. If you know what that is, if you're into board games, you can place dice out on the board. But I started designing this prototype inside of Sketch, and I want to talk a little bit about I think the board game thing is a great example of how design systems work and how it can make your life easier if you're designing an application or something like a board game. It's the same thing, okay? So I'll show you a little bit. Like, here's the board for my board game. I built all the art in another program and brought it inside. But what I really want you to notice is like all the little things on the board, like these little things here and the things that represent dice, all the little iconography, everything. Let's say later on, like as I was designing something, I wanted to change this iconography. Well, I'm going to have to change that in a lot of places because it is all up over this board. Speaking of that, like I have these little player boards. I have that same iconography all over these player boards, which check it out, right? Like, because I'm a nerd, like I print stuff like this up, and these are actual like playable components that I've made. I'm trying to get this game published and like actually put in stores so you can buy it. So here's like an example. I would make it and then I print it up on this printer back here and I test stuff out. But this is what I do because I'm a nerd in my spare time. But all of this stuff has iconography, and I basically look at it like a low resolution, like I start with a low res prototype, and then I kind of work up from there. So actually I want to show you a little bit of a few other things. Just like a website, this is in Sketch, right? Just like building a website or an app, like look, here is a version of it that's like a low fidelity prototype. It's a lot of boxes. It doesn't have pretty art in it, right? And it's just like kind of mapping out the boxes. This one's even a little bit fancier. You should have seen some of my other ones. Here, hold on one second. Stay right here. Like, here is an example. If I have it somewhere. Aha! Look at this. This is like an example of a low resolution prototype. I'm building a physical product and I'm printing stuff out. Oh my gosh, this is the messiest live stream of all time. Look, right? So this is like a wireframe of a website that I build out. Let me throw that over to the side. And then when I'm done building out this wireframe, then I'm going to lay a little bit more graphical elements on top of it. Some artwork that I borrowed just for like, you know, like from other places, because it's not, I'm not trying to sell this thing yet. I'm just trying to like make it work. But I wanted to show you a little bit now, which is like the most important part of this whole conversation, which is the design system. And in Sketch, right, that takes place with symbols. So here's this library, this design system, this pattern library of things that I have created that can then get reused. Okay, now I'm going to be very honest at like throughout this stream. I am not a fan anymore of Sketch. I don't like Sketch. To me, Sketch is dead. You're dead to me, Sketch. I only use it for this single one thing because I have my original prototype for this board game built on it. I'm done with Sketch, and I'll show you why when I flip to another board game and I show you my like some Figma prototypes that I'm building, how much easier, how much nicer it is. Okay, but let's go back to it real quick. Here's a little design library. And again, if you're like, this is a stream about board games, no. This is a stream about design systems, about pattern libraries, about building symbols and reusable components. I'm just using the board game thing as an analogy or as an example, okay? So here we are in Sketch, right? I have all of these symbols, and I use these symbols like in nested components. So for instance, like here is, where's a good example? Like, oh, look, here is a single component of this little treasure chest icon. Well, I use that treasure chest again in some nested components, which is great. And if you're like, don't understand design systems or like components and stuff, think about it like this. If I was to take this component and rotate it, look what's happening down below, right? If I mess with it in one place, I mess with it everywhere, right? Okay, that's interesting. Like if I was to put a red fill on top of it, look, it changes it everywhere. And then think about this. I'm going to go into all of these cards that I have built. Look, it's now red everywhere, right? Which is bad. We don't want that, right? So let's take that off and go back to how it was. But now look, we're back to how things were. So creating a design system is great. Here's the problem with Sketch's design systems, in my opinion. let's say later on I'm like designing something like one of these cards here, and you don't have to know how the game works. That doesn't matter. It's super nerdy. That's not what I'm talking about. But let's say I wanted to add something to this card. I wanted to add a new something to one of these, right? Okay, I have to go up. Does anybody know the pain of this I'm about to show you? In Sketch, I have to go down to Symbols. I have to travel over to this document, okay? And then I'm going to do these little flyout menus that are so annoying, right? And the naming structure is all weird. I'm like, okay, how do I name these things? Where are things? Okay, I want like a dice. And they're, okay, so now I'm going to take the 3, or maybe it's the 4. And once I get that component, I can pop it somewhere and I can change it in the symbols panel. Okay, so that's kind of nice. I'm appreciative for that I can change it in this symbols panel, right? So like we have our dice. I can say, hey, swap it out for the 1, or, you know, maybe like swap it out for a 4. This whole system of like drop down, fly out menus and it is, y'all, it is like the worst thing ever. Like, it's super frustrating. Let me show you a new example, or a better example inside of Figma that I just think works a little bit better. Okay, so we're going to jump in here really quick. We're going to talk about a design system. These are all my board game designs that I'm doing inside of Figma, and I have a new board game that I'm working on. Okay, it's a Robin Hood themed board game, super fun. Okay, but we have like some components we're building, like some cards and stuff. Here's how simple this is. Okay, I'm going to show you my design system inside of Figma. Here's why I think Figma's the better choice, not for board games, but just for designing in general. Okay, so let's go to it really quickly. It is so easy inside of Figma to, first and foremost, I selected a bunch of colors, and then I turned those into like system colors. Here they are. They're displayed so nicely in my color styles. I could create typographic styles. They would display there as well. Then I could upload something like this little meeple, which is like a little player component, right? See my little meeple that I uploaded? Okay. I had Photoshop versions of these where they're all different colors. Inside of Figma, all I had to do was turn this into a component, right? Boink, just like that. And then if I had multiple of them, I could grab them all, and which is what I did down here, and I turned them into variants. So now I have one component. It's called Meeple. It shouldn't be / Meeple. It's just called Meeple, and it has multiple variants, right? Multiple variants. So now look at this. In my design, I could create a card, right? And in that card, I could click on that little meeple, and I can say, what do I want? I want the yellow one, or the purple one, or whatever. Give me the blue one, or give me the green one. It's so much easier to have one component that has variants built off of it. Okay, wait, hold on. It gets even better, right? Because now I have the card selected, right? And it's tracking my, like the colors, the system colors. So I could really easily grab, which I did, grab all of these cards and just go, I'm going to make these the blue player cards. And now the outline has changed on all of these cards to the blue player cards. Do you see how easy it was for me to recreate all of these cards? What gets even better is when I want to add a component onto my design, I go to my little assets panel. Thank you so much, Figma, for figuring this out. And I've created these complex nested symbols, right? I can just drag a card out. There's my card. Do I want to make this red? Okay, great. Let's make this a red card. Boom. I changed my mind. Let's make it a green card. All I have to do is select green, and it changes the border. And then I'm going to select green here. Boom, I have a green card. And this is an instance. Now I can drag this out, and I can edit things like this inside. I can even hide certain elements. And each of these cubes, for instance, are also components. Look, they have the same thing going on, right? I can change. Woo, let's fly around here. I can say, I want that one to represent meat. I want this one to represent bread. I want this one to represent vegetables. I can change all of them and just go, hey, make these all meat, the red ones. Okay, see how easy it is to create things inside of Figma? And I have them all built in this little assets panel down the left-hand side. Oh my gosh, guys, it's so easy. And when I look at my design system, it's just easy to manage and maintain and understand. I have one element, right? A component. This is like a tile, and it has variants. I have artwork. I could switch artwork out. Check this out. I can come back into my mockup, into my design. All of my artwork are like components. So check it out. I can, because look, in my design system, what do I have? I have main characters with multiple variants. I have like supporting characters with multiple variants. So all I have to do is go like, hey, switch it out for the kid, or switch it out for the priest, or switch it out for this other girl. Like, so it's just so easy inside of Figma. And I wanted to show you really quickly, like what it might look like to start this from scratch, right? To kind of show you. So, the first thing I started with was I brought in like basically like those colors. I started with colors, and then I'm able to utilize those colors on like anything, on right, like meeples or cubes or components or buttons or text or whatever it is. So establishing these system colors first is always a good idea. If you have typography, right? Like, let's say I probably have some typography. Here we go. Let's do this. Here's some typography. I want to turn this into some typography I can constantly go back to. So I'm going to select the text. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to create a new text style. I'm going to call this character, I don't know, text or something like this, right? Call it an H1, call it an H2. I'm going to create the style, and now I can reuse that style anytime I want. It has the details like all around. I have some other text styles that are not that swoopy text. Let's pick this one and make another one out of it. Okay, let's call this numbers. I don't know. Maybe that's what I'll use it for. Okay, cool. And now I have some character styles. Okay, now let's do one more, and I'll show you how to organize things inside of Figma. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my mockup. I'm gonna find another piece of text like, okay, this is like description text you would use. It's very legible. It's not like all embellished and stylized. So I'm gonna click this one more time. I'm gonna make another one, and I'm gonna call this, let's just call it description text or something like that, or body. Let's call it body copy. Okay. All right. So now I have these three styles of text. How did I get this little color style inside of like a drop down called player colors? Because what if I had another color, like for instance, let's do our coin color. I'm just going to draw a rectangle out, hit I for eyedropper, and grab, I don't know, like the coin color or something. What if I want to make this like a constant like color? I open up my color styles and I go, hey, this is my coin color. I'm going to let's just call it coin first. Okay, that's a color called coin. Now when I click, look, I have this weird organization where everything is somehow tucked into player, but the coin is floating out here on its own. How do I fix these styles so that they like have some organization? It's really, really easy. Either while naming them, or you can come back in and edit just like this. All you have to do is put a slash somewhere to kind of organize. You can do this in Sketch, but the output of it is just not as good in my opinion, right? So I could put something like, let's go. This text is decorative slash, okay? So I'm going to put that in the decorative category. And I'm going to put this in the standard like category. And I'm just grabbing the slash and the thing there, and I'm going to put it on this one as well. Standard slash. So now we have decorative text styles and we have standard text styles, right? Let's go down and do the same thing here. This is like, we have player colors. How about like asset? Hold on. Wait. We got to come in here. This is coin. Let's go asset slash coin. So now we have asset colors and player colors. Do we see the difference? Okay, so now we're creating some structure of organization that makes sense for those core, those base level elements like inside of Figma. Okay, so again, like it just makes sense, right? Because just like a website, like I do my best, right, to prototype these things quick. It's like, this is like digital product design, but it's physical product design. I don't want to spend a lot of time, right, having to change 50 million icons versus create a couple of symbols that are really helpful so I could print things out fast. I can test them out quick. And if I don't like how this one works, I'm just going to go back in. I'm going to change the symbol really quickly. It's going to change it everywhere. Okay. So again, this section of the stream was not about board games. It was about building out design systems that make sense, that can be helpful for your projects, building out reusable components, elements, color styles, text styles, reusing those. I think Adobe XD does this well. I think Figma does this well. I think that Sketch does this poorly. I just think and if you love Sketch, hey, to each his own. I just think, to me, Sketch is dead. I'm done with that tool. I'm over it. I was so excited about Sketch when it launched. I'm done with it after like 10 years or something like that. Over that tool. Okay, cool. So let's move on to part 2, shall we? And before we do that, if you have any questions, drop those inside the chat. We'll do some question and some answer time right now. Taking a little sip of my Cooper's Cast coffee. Again, not sponsored, just something that I'm in love with. Wolfram, your legend should be on the way, my friend. I've got in contact with them, and they should have sent it to you. That's all I know. I'll check on it again. Sorry, that sponsor's really frustrating me a little bit. Okay, let's see. Questions. Do you have any questions? Kosa TV says, do you use to program in some programming languages? Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, like, I do front-end development, so that consists of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So I would say JavaScript is the one that I'm most fluent in. As far as back-end languages, I do a little bit of Ruby, but I'm not great. I'm not a great back-end programmer. It's not my jam. If I need serious back-end development, I'm going to lean on like a developer. I'm going to lean on a resource, right? I used to code a lot of PHP. I stopped doing that. And I don't code as much anymore because we're going to be talking about Webflow here in a second and building stuff out. When I code, I did a lot more marketing websites, and I can do those in like an Editor X or a Webflow type program now. I can do those like in a day or two, and I don't need to hand roll my own websites. So I haven't really coded something or hand rolled a website for a really long time, for a couple of years now, y'all. And that's okay, because I've found what works for me in my workflow. All right. So Light Buzzier, love the screen name, has a great question. Do you have quick tips for creating style guides? Yeah, I have some quick tips for creating style guides. From tip number 1, have them. They're great. They're a great thing to have. But number 2, I think organization is pretty crucial when you're creating style guides. Having some method of organization inside of your style guide. Actually, let me show you a few things here. Boop, 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 boop. I'm going to open up some of the capstone projects from my 12-week Dribble course. And you can kind of see some of the design systems or the library that I've structured for my students. And if you are in the course, you're going to see these later. If you sign up right now, 40% off right now to get, sign up for 40% off. You'll get access to the course for the next cohort that's starting in about 10 weeks at 40% off discount, which is a great deal. But let's talk a little bit about organization. So here's an example of an organization system, or a couple of different ones, okay? And the reason in the course I have 2 different ones is because this is not the way you have to do it. It's a way that you have to do it. Somebody says they love that I'm using Brave browser. Thank you. I enjoy using Brave. It protects all of my data. Okay, so for instance, inside of this like library or design system, I have some user flow components that the user could then look inside of their assets, and they could use those elements if they want. Not user, the designer, sorry. But let's talk about organization. I definitely like to organize after you're, like in my previous example of just creating like colors like this. You want them documented somewhere as well. So documentation is a huge part of what we do as digital product designers, right? Not just creating things that work for me, but creating things that communicate and translate well to teams, to engineering teams, to project managers, right? Those things matter. And so documenting things like this, no bueno, no good. But documenting things like this, much better. So when I create colors, or I create systems, I'm going to first organize them into artboards. So each one of these artboards you'll see here says colors, typography, user flow, icons. When we come into using the like all the elements, they should, or at least they could be organized in that way, especially if you turn them into a library, right? Okay, so the typography won't turn up, but icons will, right? And then user flow stuff. That's what we're getting right now, is like icons, user flow, and we can access those elements. So, okay, so, but for instance, here's a better example. I'm going to turn over to this other one. When we organize things by artboards, look, I have I have icons, image selections, and UI components. When I go to the assets here, what do I have? I have icons, image selections, and UI components all sitting in there. So first things first, I organize by artboard. I'll create an artboard, structure it, put all those elements on the board, document things there. So let's look again back at that first design system. Colors, I'm going to put in hex, RGB, and the HSL colors a lot of the times, right? And I'm going to title it. It's primary, you know, with the color, like basically creating a color scale. So how you would do this is select an initial color that you're working off of and use plugin or create your own color scale. That's really, really easy. It's as simple as picking a color, like let's say this was your color, okay? And you're going to create another color scale. So let's break it. You're going to add a color onto it with 20% black. You're going to add another color on, or another version of it with 40% black, and on we go, right? And you can go the other way. And instead of it being black, you're going to go white, right? So let's make it 20% white, and on we go to 40% white. Now you're creating a color scale, a scale that's based off of that original color that you can use. Okay, so that's a good one. And I'm going to do those by section. So primary, you know, like secondary, or like maybe another complementary color, whatever it is. You're going to lay all those color scales out in some way. This is one way to do it. But I'm also going to do the typography. I'm going to lay out the typography. Here's what it looks like, and here's all the details of it, right? Letter spacing, line height, size, weight, and what is the font. You're going to do that for all of your character styles. Look at all the text styles, right? Large title. Now, a little bit of structure recommendation. When you're doing websites, it makes sense to do H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6, body copy, right? Sub headline, caption. You can dictate things that way. But when I do mobile projects, I tend to break them into sections like large title, and then I go by weight, like bold, semi-bold, medium, regular. I like to go title 1 and do all those same things again. Like body, semi-bold, medium. So I break them into uses, right? How am I going to use this typography? This jumps into the category of large titles, right? And then here's the weights of them and the different styles, right? Each of them might have different letter spacing or character spacing or line height or whatever it is. So that's a way that I do that. And then again, you're going to move over to something like your icons. I like to structure mine in some sort of grid so you can see them. This is, again, there's two pieces to any design system you're creating. One is the use of it, which is going to be in your assets panel in Figma. I can drag those out and use them. And the other one is the presentation and the organization and the description and communication of your design system. Okay? Does that make sense? So this is the visual aspect of it, so people can see, click on them and see what they are. And the other one is the found in the assets panel, the usability of it, right? I can drag it out and use it. So one is functional and one is visual or documentation wise. I hope that makes sense. But that is a way, that was a very long answer, a very long way to answer the question of how do I structure my design systems, okay? Yeah, and you could do it in lots of different ways. Really quickly before we end, here's another way to do it by creating cards for the color and showing like, you know, like different like color patterns or like the light and the dark hues of them, doing your typography in a little bit of a different way. So again, you can figure out, there is no right or wrong way, but if you really want to be like hyper organized, if you work for a large Fortune 500 company, you might want to look at some of the large design systems out there like Airbnbs or Stripes or a few of the others to see how they structure their design system. Just copy them, right? Just do it the way they do it. Or if you're on a smaller team, you need something a little bit more agile, you're going to build something that worked for you and your team. Okay. So, they said, thanks for that answer. You are so welcome. Nico, last question before we jump back into it and do a little Webflow work. Is there any tool to get the perfect font sizes, line heights, and so on based on the specific font and font size? Yeah, you just want to build a typographic scale. I've done lots of videos on this. So build yourself a typographic scale. Here's what building a typographic scale might look like. I'm going to get some text. I'm going to lay it in there. I'm going to break things right here real quick and just say like, let's go body copy. Okay, so this is going to be my body copy. And I'm going to pick a great starting size for my body copy. Okay, maybe it's like 18 pixels. And I'm going to do something like medium for my body copy. Or you know what? This probably makes more sense to do regular. Let's do regular for body copy. 18 pixels. Body copy, right? Well, then we need to pick a scale. Okay, so picking a scale just means at what multiplier are you going to like scale all your typography up consistently. Okay, a great tool, you're asking about tools, would be something like type-scale.com, right? It's going to show you, it's going to do the same thing that I'm basically doing manually, right? Which is, let's say I want to create like the next step up in my scale. I'm going to choose this, and let's just say it's ×2. I'm going to do ×2, and then I like to jump up a weight, right? Let's jump up at least one weight. Let's do it again. Let's go ×2, and I like to jump up another weight, right? Now we're building, this is like the manual, very simplified way of building a typographic scale. Typescale is going to do it for you with all of the goodies involved, right? Not only your type size, but then also your line height, your spacing, and everything. And so what you're going to do is set your base height. Maybe we want it to be, like we said, 18 pixels. See how it just shifted our scale? 15, 16, 166, right? Okay, so we choose 18, and then we choose the scale. These are just fancy designy terms for the type of scale. Major third, minor fourth, golden ratio. Maybe that's one you've heard of. We'll do golden ratio. You're going to see this thing jump up in a very big way for the golden ratio, or go back down to something like minor third. You choose what looks right. Choose your font, choose your weight, and then a preview as a visual type scale. What is it going to actually say inside of there, right? From there, you can literally add more sizes on. If you feel like you need another one, boom, it's going to add it right on, okay? And then you can grab the CSS. If you're doing this inside of a website, boom, it applies it all for you. Or you can just take these settings and pop them into your Figma styles, right? So, for instance, can we do REMs inside of Figma? I don't think we can, but that might be a way that we have to fix this. Okay. Can we do REMs? Let's try. Well, what happens if we put in 72 REMs? Yeah, they don't do REMs. That's very web. So there's just some other tools out there similar to Typescale that will do pixels or percentages that might help you. But this is a great way to start. It's a great place to start, right? Using so using a tool like this. That's a great question. Thank you guys so much for the questions. We are now, because we got stuff to do, we got stuff to build, we're going to jump into Webflow right now. So recently I released a video where I designed and created this dashboard sidebar. All right. I just released it yesterday, I think. Did it come out yesterday? Yeah. And I used some cool animated icons, and I created the whole thing in Figma, and I basically dropped these animated icons that were provided by Lord Icon. Amazing. Just check it out. Links in the description. They're great. And they have all these fun animated icons. Well, a lot of people had questions. They were like, hey, we got that tutorial. That was awesome. Love the animated icon thing. How'd you build that in Webflow? I had a bunch of people say, and I realized I don't do a lot of Webflow streams, but I love Webflow. So I just figured we would chill and vibe and build this thing together today. It's really, it's a lot simpler than you would think. So, let's do that real quick, and we'll have some fun that way. Okay, cool. We're going to come in here, and we're going to start building. First thing, I need a few things. I need this, I need that, and I need the logo, and I need the avatar. So why don't I'm just going to export these out of Figma really quickly. And you know, I think it's always better to export an SVG for a logo. Ooh, not a PNG. Let's go SVG. Here we go. We're going to call this the logo. Love that. And we want to export this as the avatar. All right, now we have all the assets we need. We're here in the browser. And I actually have all of my Lord Icon icons, right? And they're done in JSON. And you can see now I have my avatar and I have my logo, and I'm ready to go. I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm going to close all tabs that don't need to be there. And I basically just have, inside of Webflow, I have a single like sidebar that's been placed. Let's look at the styling for that sidebar really quickly. I basically just drop some padding on it on the left and right. Doesn't really need padding on, or excuse me, left and top. I don't need padding on the bottom and the right, but we can put it there if we want to. And I've set a width and a height. I'm saying, hey, I want you to be 100% of the height. You could either do percentage or you could do viewport height. It's up to you. A little bit of a different interaction there or behavior, but basically the same. And I set a width, 370 pixels. And then I fixed this, this container basically to the left-hand side. That way when I think I need to do something really quickly. I'm just going to change we're working on the body now in Webflow. I have the entire body of my website selected. I'm just going to give this a little less of a white kind of background, and I'm going to choose like a dark background so you can see what color, like maybe we were using. I'm going to use this little cool plugin I have on my computer called Color Snapper. It allows me to just grab a color from anywhere and then apply it like so. Okay, cool. So now we have like a color in the background. You can see my left-hand sidebar. When I preview, it stays anchored over to the left-hand side, which is nice. Okay, that's what we want to start with. Next thing we're going to do is I'm going to go to my assets panel, and I have a bunch of my stuff already. I already drug that in? I did. Okay, great. So I drug in the JSON files, which give me all the animations, which is super duper nice. But we need to create this layout before we really worry about all that other stuff. So let's grab our logo. I'm going to drag that in. It kind of sits exactly where we want it to sit, which is nice. It's doing that naturally because of the padding on the sidebar. So let's go back. If you're not used to Webflow, you have the styles, the settings, the style manager, and then you have the interactions panel over on the right hand side. So we're working right now, we're currently just styling stuff. Okay, so we're styling, and the reason that it's staying distanced away from the left and the top was the padding. That's right, we put padding on this thing, and so it's kind of staying padded away. That's what padding does. We love it. Okay, cool. Okay, bueno. Everything's looking good so far. We have that in there. What do we need to do next? We need to drop in our little titles. We're not going to be doing the mobile one. We're just going to do the desktop for now. I think that's enough. So we need to drop in like these titles. And what am I using here? I'm using Popins. And I have a logo, and I have like a little, we'll skip these fellas, but we'll do like some hover stuff. Okay. So first thing I want to do is I want to select the body and make sure that I'm using Popins for the entire body. That way I don't have to constantly try to override each individual headline or piece of text. I want to be using Popins, and I don't have Popins uploaded. So I'm gonna have to jump to my account really quick and add fonts, right? Boop, boop. Oh, that's okay. I can show you. So all I did was click right here and say add fonts, and Webflow opens this up. It allows me to search for some Google fonts, and Popins is a Google font. Can we find it? Is it in here? It should be. Popins, where are you? This is like hide and go seek for fonts right now. What? There you are. Popins. Okay. Give me I want regular, I want 500, 600, and 700 weights. That should work. Okay, I should be able to do that, and now I should be able to reload. That's okay if changes haven't saved. We're cool. We're gonna reload Webflow, and we should be able to now select Popins. So we'll try that again. Aha! And in our font selections, we now have Popins. Okay, so we've set Popins to be the default font for everything. In the real world, if you're doing an actual website project, you would want to set create a style guide page first, right? Create an entire separate page where you build out your style guide just like it is in Figma. So you have everything set. H1, H2, here's how they all look. We ain't doing that today. That's a separate stream. We're just going to run and gun and do some stuff. All right, so in Figma, I'm going to, what should I do? I should probably add a containing element, right? Kind of think about it like that, because these things are all framed together. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit plus here. I'm going to drop a div block inside. It goes all the way to the edge. That's what we want. And we're going to name this class. All right. So class naming 101. Name it something descriptive. Name it something that makes sense, right? Obviously. And then name it something that you'll remember. This is a pretty easy one. This makes a lot of sense. I'm just going to call this nav. I start with lowercase and then I go container. Okay, cool. So we have a nav container. Beautiful. We just created a class. Let's drop in a little headline, shall we? So we're going to come in here and find heading. Bonk. We pop that right inside. Let's make it like it could be low value, like H4 or something like that. Let's even do H5 and see how it's like styling it. Okay. Yeah. So it's styling it and giving it something to do, but we can style it ourselves, right? Okay, so it's setting it to bold. Let's go down to medium. Let's try to mimic this as much as possible. Medium 14, and we have this color, right? So we're gonna do that. Medium 14, and let's choose this color. Beautiful. Medium looks a little bit chunkier here than it does in Figma. So why don't we, I think we're gonna have to tone it down and go, oh, we're still in semi-bold. There we go. Now we're working. Okay. So it's butted up here like really too close. Like how far away was this? About 62 pixels. So instead of, we'll just grab the entire nav container and we'll hit the margins right here and we'll set it to, yeah, you guessed it, 62 pixels. Boom, we're spaced away. Everything looks perfect. It's starting to work out just how we like it. All right, now we need to create our first row, and that entire row needs to be clickable, right? So we are going to, inside here underneath our heading, we're going to drop in a little link block. Let's try the link block first and see how that works, shall we? Okay, so we're gonna, it's called stubbing it. We're just going to leave the hashtag inside of there, and we'll just close this for now. We need to style this sucker. And let's talk about width here first. Let's go down. Where is our width? Here it is. So let's just make it 100%. Okay, so now our link block goes in there. Height. Let's wait. Let's put something inside there because we'll let the text and the iconography and everything dictate the height, I think. So let's put just basic text inside. Text block, boink, like that. And then we're also going to put in an icon, which is going to be our Lottie animation. I'll put that inside as well. Okay. So now you can see inside we have a link block that has text and a Lottie animation. I can style this. There's multiple ways to skin this cat and make this happen, right? So I'm going to use the link block here and I'm going to turn it on to, a flex layout, I think is the thing that we want. So I'm going to hit flex layout and it flexes them side by side like so. I think that looks pretty good, but we just want our text, excuse me, our Lottie animation to be on the left side. I'm going to sneeze here on this live stream in a second. Here we go. That was 2 sneezes. Please, somebody out there say, God bless you, or excuse you. And excuse me for sneezing. Okay. Why don't we select which Lottie we want? I'm going to replace it with a Lottie. And what was the first one? It was our little home. So I'm going to grab home. And it's massive, right? It's huge. We don't want it to be so big. So we can actually give this thank you, Teraboo said bless you. I appreciate that. I kind of forced you to do it, but I think you probably would have said bless you anyways without me prompting you. So I do appreciate you. Okay, so we have our icon here. It's an animated icon. You can see, let's press play really quickly. Look at, we're getting fun Lottie animation out of it because it's those cool Lord icons. We got to give this a class, and the reason we give things classes inside, this is actually kind of a cool lesson. Inside of websites, we're using CSS classes because CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. It's the same thing we were trying to do inside of our design systems in Figma, which is name something or label something one time, be able to make a change to it, and it reflects across everywhere, right? Okay, beautiful. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean right now. Okay, if I could go back to my desktop and see, I'm having a little problem with my Stream Deck this morning. Let's just jump over like this. All right, here we go. So let's leave everything as is, right? And then let's just duplicate these just like so. All right. I'm going to take this first Lottie animation and I'm going to give it a class. I'm going to call this, let's see, nav icon, nav item icon. I like to camel case my classes like so. Boom. So I've given it a class of nav item icon. We're going to now change like the width and the details of this. So how big is our icon over here? It's 24 by 24. So let's make it 24 by 24. Do you see how we've changed the size of our text, right? Okay, great. We have our nav container. Everything's getting a little bit funky looking, right? That's okay. We're going to fix it. Now let's keep fixing this one. It probably needs a little bit, yikes, of spacing. How much is the spacing? 16 pixels in between the nav, or like the icon and the text there, right? I am just, wow, I'm zooming all over the place today. I'm sorry, everybody. So let's do that. Let's give our nav item icon class a little bit of right padding here. We're going to go 16. Oh, that's padding. Let's do margin. Excuse me. Let's margin it 16 pixels like so. Okay, see how it's spaced itself away from the text? Perfect. That's what we want. So here's the power of classes, or similarly components inside of Figma. I can grab this Lottie animation. Let's give it a class. And what do we call that? We called that nav item icon. As soon as I click here, it's going to style it just like the other icon. Beautiful. We'll do it again. nav item icon. Oh my gosh, look, we're starting to build our elements, right? They're starting to fit in. This is the power of Webflow, which is super duper great. Okay, now we need to style our, like these actual rows a little bit, okay? So let's see, what's really like the size going on here? If I was to measure these, like maybe they're 27 height, but really what we care about is 16 pixels of spacing, or 40 pixels of spacing, excuse me, in between. So that's the next thing we need to do is let's rename this. It's called link block, but let's call this, rename it to nav item. Ooh, we already have nav item. Okay, let's call this, I don't know, let's rename this as like nav row then. Okay, so this is a nav row, and let's add a little bit of margin here. So let's do 40 pixels on the bottom. Now we're spacing it out. And then let's add a little bit of padding, and I'm going to hold down shift. And when I hold down shift and drag, we get that little bit of padding. So we'll do like 16 pixels of padding, but we don't want it on the left hand and the right hand edge. We want it on the top and bottom. See how we've padded things out a little bit on the top and bottom, not on the left hand edge. That way it's going to stay slammed up and lined equally with our heading. And then also when we do our active state, our little line that you can see right here, everything will be kind of perfectly to the edge. But we've just created a little bit of that padding. You can play with it a little bit if you want. Maybe that's too much padding. Maybe we didn't even need the padding at all. Maybe we could jump that back down to 0. Maybe just having the item there is enough. But here's the problem. Think about this in the world of websites and developing websites. If I make that nav row item really thin, it's harder to click. So I would much rather decrease the amount of margin in between the elements and increase the amount of padding so that it's really, really clickable, right? So that we don't have some sort of like tiny link or fat thumbs issue. So I'm going to do it the other way. Yeah, I'm going to go, hey, I want like, what if we did 20 pixels of padding on the top and bottom and removed the margin? We want no margin. Let's just set it to 0. Now my line items, they roll up right next to each other without any sort of, see that? They're kind of just stacking on top of each other. It's a nice big clickable element, not that little thin guy inside. So use the padding of the element, make the entire thing clickable, pad it out, make it nice and spacious so that it's a good, easy, clickable experience for your users, okay? Okay, next thing we have to do is we need to style the text inside, because on hover, it's gonna be blue, but just naturally speaking, it's going to be this color right here, this 111314. So let's grab that color, and let's say our nav rows have text inside, and we want to kind of like change the text color. Now this can always be tricky because we have a link block and we have the text inside, and the text might be a different color. So you might have to change this in multiple areas, right? Okay, so let's set, first of all, the typography color to be black, right? We could have made it blue or whatever color. We decided to make it our black color. Okay, it's always best in front end development. You always want to work from the outside in. It's going to save you a lot of time. Here's what I mean. If you work from this little element we're creating has a lot of stuff going on inside of it, right? Let's say, for instance, inside of each one of these, we also had, I don't know, like a headline of some sort. Okay. See how everything here is underlined? It doesn't make sense for me to come in and go, okay, I'm going to click on this thing, remove the underline. I'm going to click on this thing now and remove that underline. What makes way more sense is try to work from the outside in and say, I'm going to click on the thing it's contained in, the containing element. I'm going to click on that thing, and I'm going to say, hey, make sure that everything inside does not have any decoration, does not have any underline. And now we have worked smarter, not harder. It's cascading that style down onto all of its elements. This is where in front-end web development, we get the idea of parent-child relationships, right? The parent is always the containing element, and it has say-so, it has control over the child element, any elements inside of it, right? That parent-child relationship. Now that parent can have children, and those children can have children. So we have to think about this. It's like Inception, and you're Leonardo DiCaprio, like 4 layers deep, right? So you got to be careful about how deep you go. But for the most part, think about things in the parent-child relationship. Always tell the parent what to do. and the parent will correct the child. Don't tell the child what to do. Okay, so that's a little life lesson as well as a front-end development lesson, which I think is nice. Okay, dashboard, expenses, savings. Let's name these real quick, shall we? We'll do dashboard. Okay, expenses and savings, and this is not the text style that we need. Now the question becomes, inside of here, we have no class, but if we change the size of this, will it change it everywhere? It will not, right? Because it has no class attached to it. So we need to give it a class, and we're going to call this, what is this, medium 18, okay? And it has that color style. That's what we want, right? So now let's give the text inside a class. It says text block, but let's rename this and call this nav row text. Okay, and we can change this. It was 18, I believe, 18, and it was medium with that color, right? So we're going to change this from normal to medium. Now, again, we did this on the child. We could have also done this on the container, right? So we could say, hey, everything that's about to go inside, make sure that you're medium, right? So we're working from the outside. We also could have done the same thing here. Hey, make sure that everything is medium. Make sure that everything inside is 18 pixels. We do not have to do it here anymore. I can change this and it will override, right? But we, like we said, follow our own rules here. We want to try to work from the outside in. So 18 medium, it changed everything, which is really, really nice. Okay. Okay. So we're changing from the outside in. That looks pretty good. I'm digging it. These look really, really small, but so maybe we need to pump those up just a little bit. 26 to, let's go 28, right? 28. They just look a little bit more legible. Now we need to balance things inside of our rows. So I'm just going to hit the alignment tool here. When you're using flex layout, you have a lot of control about how you align and justify things and change the direction. It's really great. I encourage you to always use grid or flex layouts. They're really easy to understand. So I'm centering things. I'm justifying things to the left. If I wanted to justify them to the right or the center, I could do that. Pushing everything to the left, which works really well. Let's replace all these Lotties with the correct one, which should be the coin and the piggy bank. To do that, I just click on it, hit that little gear icon, replace Lottie, and we'll say the coin one goes there, and we'll do the same thing here, replace, and the piggy bank goes here. Okay, so far, look, let's press play. We're getting some nice like intro animations there, but that's it. They run one time and they stop. But we're building a fun, responsive like dashboard. It's working all right. It's looking pretty cool. And let's just do it one more time so you can see those little animations. But we have nice spacing here. Everything's working really, really well. Okay, so let's do a few more here. We'll just, again, now that we're creating classes for everything, we're structuring everything, formatting and styling, we can just paste and put two more in there, and it's going to put it perfectly where we want it. It's kind of like auto layout inside of Figma. See how auto layout is mimicking web development? Figma's thinking about things. Budget and reports. Let's do that. Okay. Budget and reports. Beautiful. And then we're going to change these icons as well. My nose itches really, really bad. Let's do budget. And we have the little cache icon. I think we had the pie chart for this one. So let's do pie chart here. Boink, just like so. Okay, great. So now the next thing we have to do is create this little like separating element. And I'm going to do that with a div, right? I'm going to bring a new div inside. We have all of these. I'm going to collapse everything so you can see really quickly. We have our image up top, right? Let's rename that. Let's give that a class of logo, right? So we have our logo up top, and we have our nav container. And inside of that nav container, we have a heading, okay? And then we have all of our nav rows, okay? So I'm going to be inside of my nav container, and I'm just going to add a random div, and I'm going to name it separator, something like that. Let's just call this line. Yeah, let's just call it line sep for line separator, okay? You can style empty divs, just like you can style auto layouts, right? You create a frame or an auto layout inside of Figma. You can style it. You do the same thing here. See how Figma is thinking? That's why I like Figma, because it thinks like web developers and front-end dev. Okay, so let's style this thing really quickly, shall we? Let's do, to style it, we're going to do a width of 100%, and we'll go height of 1 pixel. Okay, see how all of a sudden it got very, very small. Now all we have to do is drop down and put a little border on this thing. We're going to do a top border, and it's going to be a dotted border. And I think what color was our border? It was our CO color. So let's pop that in there really quickly. Boom. And I like that color. I'm just going to save it. I created a swatch inside. We should be doing that with all of our stuff so we can constantly go back. Yep, we're calling it silver. Yes, it's silver. Look at that. We can reuse that over and over. Look, here's our little line. It's appearing, but it's drifting all the way to the right. So all we have to do now is we're going to do a little overriding style. Now we're actually going to tell the child what to do, right? Because this line is technically a child of this nav container. See how it's inside? These little lines are showing your parent-child relationship, and our line sep is a child. So now we're going to actually tell the child what to do because it's a little bit different from what the rest of the family is doing. Okay, so let's do a little child development here. We're going to go into the line separator, and we can dictate like the width of it. So instead of doing 100%, let's do, well, what's 90% look like? Let's go 90%. It kind of looks perfect. I don't know. It looks really nice. I like it. And if it's a little too close, like it's riding right up on our element here, let's do that. Let's override that as well. And we'll give it 40 pixels of spacing if that's what we want. Oh my gosh, it's looking just like the design. How beautiful is this? All right, we had a couple more. We had another headline, and we have more settings. This is going to be fun. Let's take another headline. Let's rename this. We'll call this sidebar subheading. Subheading like that. We're going to take that. We'll duplicate it. We'll have another one. I'm just going to drag it down below everything like so. Okay. Now this is going to bring up a really interesting point because there's always multiple ways to skin any one cat, right? You can see that our heading, it's kind of rubbing up really close to the top. Okay, so we have a little bit of a choice. We can either change the spacing of the heading, which right now is actually kind of perfect, or we can change the spacing of our line separator. Maybe our line separator also needs to have 40 pixels of spacing on the bottom, and it looks like we're now starting a new section. Do we see that? Okay, cool. That works perfectly. Now what do I do? I'm going to copy and paste and drag below. Oh my gosh, it's coming together, everybody. Settings, notifications, security. Let's do that, right? Okay. So settings, beautiful. Boom, boom, boom. Notifications, and this one said security, something like that. Let's see, do we have these Lottie animations loaded up here? We do. Security, fun, okay. Notifications should be a little bell, love that. And then settings should be our little gear. So we're just popping these things in. But see how how quick I can work because I've dictated some styles. I'm not trying to make this connect a whole lot or more than it needs to, you guys, but it's the same thing you do in Figma by creating design systems and pattern libraries. Create things one time, reuse that style, that thing over and over and over. This is the work smarter, not harder mentality, okay? All right, this looks really, really good. I'm loving it. I'm digging it. Let's do our hover state because look, now that we've created these styles, right? If we add some sort of style change like padding, it's going to pad all of them, right? If we change the color of everything inside, we want to move away from this color, which side note, let's make a swatch out of because we like this black color. But if we want to make everything inside red, we can do that, but we don't. We want to turn back to black. See how we're just switching everything on the fly really, really quickly. This is working inside of Webflow. It's smooth. It flows very, very nicely. So this was called preferences and main menu. Let's call this main menu. And this one says preferences. Beautiful. Okay. Now we have our headlines correctly. I'll tell you what, just for the sake of time and brevity, I'm going to skip this bottom area. It's actually really, really easy to do. I'm going to try to do it really, really fast. I'm just going to create a div like really quickly. Let's see if we drop a div in. Boom, a new div block goes in. See how it's like all the way at the top and it's spanning the entire width of my project? It's because it's not inside of my sidebar wrapper. So I'm going to drop it inside of my sidebar wrapper. Boom. Now it spans only the width there. I'm going to move it all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to collapse the rest of these little nav rows here, and then where did my div block is inside a thing. I want to make sure that it's on its own line. Beautiful, just like so. Let's give this thing a class. We'll call this account wrapper or container. Okay, so it's just a containing element. What do we want to do? We want to make it go all the way down to the bottom. Wherever that bottom is, That's what we really, really want. Let's take away a little bit of this padding on the top so we can get a little bit more space here. I'm only going to go 30 pixels from the top because I just want you to see this thing flop all the way to the bottom, okay? I'm just going to fix this thing. So I'm going to change the position of it from static to fixed, okay? And then I'm going to fix it to the bottom like so. I'm going to make, and I need to pop something inside of it, right? So let's asset the resources here. Let's bring my avatar inside. I need something inside of it to fill that container. Let's pop our avatar right there, and we'll just make sure that it goes inside my account container. Boom, inside. Okay, see how it's anchored now to the bottom? 100% anchored now to the bottom. Let's do width of 100%. But for some reason it jumped outside, I think. Let's collapse everything in our layers panel, and good. Okay, and once you fix something or you make something position absolute, these are two little kind of web development things you need to know. You need to have something going on with your parent. Your parent now needs to become relative. Oh, I had that wrong. Doing something wrong there. Let's go back. Oh, I did something very, very wrong. Is this inside? Should be inside. Let's just, we'll make it like that. Okay. I'm doing something wrong here, and that's okay. I'll figure it out, I promise. But I think this is a great time before we fix that to go to some question and answer time. Okay. All right. Fantastic. Okay. How's everybody doing? Let me know, what questions do you have? Okay. What extensions should you add in Brave? Can you show? Yeah, I guess I could show. Let's see. What extensions do I have? Here's an extension that I love a lot. It's called CSS Peeper, right? I can go to a website that I really like, and I'm going to use, this is one of my favorites right here. Show me the styles, right? It has access to the site. I click it. It opens up this great little sidebar here. I love CSS Peeper, and I get information about the site. Like what fonts is it using, the CSS information. I get all the colors used. This dribble obviously has a lot of colors that it's using, but I also get all the images that are used. And so if I want one of these, I can just export it directly from here. This works really, really great for grabbing elements off of a website, understanding font, typography, CSS, images, colors. Love that. It's one of my faves. The other one I use a lot is, I love the Loom extension, obviously, because I can just record a little Loom video for people. And then I used a time tracking plugin called Tracking Time. And it just allows me to turn on a clock and assign it to a project that I'm working on. But those are a couple extensions I really enjoy inside of a browser. Yeah, great. Let's see. Emma says, are you going to put this into a regular video later on? I don't know. I might start doing some more Webflow inspired videos, but we'll see how that comes. I'm not really sure. Not 100% sure yet, but that's a great question. Okay, so let's ask some more questions here. Most of the people started work. Yep. I know it's kind of okay. What can I do if I'm bored doing the same project for 2 months? I create a portfolio and I've kind of finished it, but I don't feel happy about doing it now. Should I take a break? If you can take a break, if you might be the type of person that needs to switch often between projects. I'm that type of person. If I stay hyper committed to one thing for too long, I do start to get bored with it. So it might be a good thing for you to have multiple things going on at once. Like even when I'm designing board games, I'll have multiple board game designs going on because you know, creativity strikes at different times, and if it strikes for project A but not B, it's nice to have A and B to kind of switch from. So just know your limits and know the type of person you are. Some people like to carry one thing through all the way to the end. That's cool. You do you. You be you. Some people like to jump around a little bit. So figure out a workflow, a lifestyle, a business model that works for you to kind of make the best use of, you know, who you are as a person, how you work best. Okay. Let's see. Did I record with an ultra wide monitor for my MacBook screen? Nope. It's a normal MacBook Pro. I think it's a 16-inch I have sitting right here. I did a whole video about gear that I use. So if you're interested in that, you can, just maybe like last week I released that. It's a gear and a desk setup on all of my equipment. So check that out if you're interested. Okay. Any other questions? I'm looking. Oh, okay. Ibrahim says, Jesse, REMs versus pixels, which should we use in web design? That's a great question. Should you be using REMs, REMs, EMs, percentages, viewport height, viewport width, or pixels? You should use what's right for the specific scenario. As much as you possibly can, it would be best to keep your sites responsive if you can design things in REMs or EMs. That keeps things relative to one another, right? That's the idea. But there might be times where, for instance, like my icons in this project, I don't ever want them to change. I don't want them to responsively shrink up and down. I don't want my sidebar navigation items, like the text itself, to shrink up and down relative to the browser. I might want those to be static or fixed size. So in that case, I'm going to use a fixed measurement, a fixed measurement like style, which would be pixels, right? But if you want things to respond, use the other ones. There's certain use cases where viewport height and viewport width works great. Like I want this, sidebar to be 30% of the viewport width, and I want everything to stretch within it. Okay, great. So there's no right or wrong answer. But if you're designing everything using fixed measuring, not denominations, but fixed measurements like pixels, then you're probably going to have a problem. You're going to be doing a lot more work of fixing it when it hits this size, fixing it when it hits that size. So try to make things work responsively as much as you can until they break, and then you can insert something, responsively to make it work a little bit. Okay. Yep. Abraham says, I love Webflow and Elementor. Which do you prefer? I am a big Webflow and also Editor X fan. I'm not a WordPress builder kind of person. That's just me personally. I love the freedom and the ability to build anything from scratch inside of Webflow or Editor X. I think the reason I love it is because I did code my own websites for years. I don't want to start with something and then try to change it to do what I want it to do. I want to start with a blank canvas and make it look exactly like my Figma design. Does that make sense? So that works better for me, right? But maybe something like an Elementor or a Divi or some of the other WordPress builders, maybe those work for you. Those are great questions, and I really appreciate everybody asking those questions. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee, and we will be right back. All right, I've sipped some of this delicious coffee. Let's see. We're going to jump over. I had the one that I built the other day, and I was looking at it. How did I get this thing to stay where I wanted it to be? I think I just didn't give this 100% fixed width. I think I just said, make this like auto. I think that's what I did. So width of auto, it sits in there, and then you just like add your text and your different things you want, right? I could copy some text from here. I'm inside. Boom. Let's pop this there. Let's make this like a flex grid thing like this. And then I put the rest of the information in there. So that's pretty interesting. So you can do that, right? And then obviously this might be where like our padding on the bottom comes into play. We might want to do 24 pixels of padding on the bottom of our container, and that will bump it up. Hopefully sidebar wrapper. It should. Yep. But we're fixing this. So we might have to add padding all around. Sorry. We're going to add some padding like so on this, like 16 pixels of padding. And now it floats a little bit better. Okay, so you can figure that out, do that. But that's not what I want to get to. What I really want to get to is these interactions, right? The hovers, at least the basic hovers. And then maybe we might have to come back and do a separate stream for doing the animation interactions, which I feel like I kind of talked about in the stream. So let's just do these hovers. All right, as we hover over these elements, we want some sort of like our line to appear and our things to change. How do you do hovers inside of Webflow? It's real easy. I'm going to select the element I want to hover. Again, it has a class in the top right? And it has 3 selectors inside of it, right? That I'm kind of working on. But this nav row, it also has a hover state. So we're going to turn on the hover state. And now with the hover state selected, we should be able to come in and make those changes. So let's change it to, what is this color, this blue color that we have here? Let's grab that color, boop, just like that. Okay, so we're going to come in here and we're going to say we want these to actually change now to blue. I really like this. Let's call it our blue. So we want it to change to our blue. Beautiful. Okay, and now we can go back and we should get a nice hover over all of these. Now, notice this, like as I hover, it's just clicking on, clicking off. If you want, I don't know, a little bit, like let's do something a little bit more drastic, okay? So for instance, let's do our our icon here, it is spacing out 16 pixels. It has 16 pixels of margin in between. Maybe we want that, that little headline or that text to push out, just nudge out a little bit. We could do that. Let's go back up and let's click here. And we'll say, hey, on hover, right? We want our nav icon, or yep, actually here, we want our nav icon to go to hover here. Yeah, we want our nav icon to now space, or maybe we want the whole thing to space out a little bit. Let's try that. That'll be fun. Why does this have 1 pixel of spacing on the bottom? That was frustrating me. Okay, so maybe we just space the whole thing out. Let's do that. That's simpler. So 8 pixels of space. Okay, great. Now we should be able to go back. See how it's kicking out like that? Okay, great. But it's real choppy, right? Okay, we can click off of it. We're getting a real choppy experience over here with these hovers, and we don't want that. We want to add some nice sort of smooth transition. Let's do that. We're going to click our item, our nav row. We're even getting a little bit of our hover in our preview like this. Let's go down in Webflow to the very bottom, and let's add a transition. Okay, we want to transition what? The Z index? No, we want to transition the opacity. We want to transition typography color, and we want that to be 200 milliseconds, and we want it to ease a little bit. Okay, so we didn't do it. Boom, like that. Should click OK. Let's do 300 milliseconds. Okay, so now we have, look, our opacity is going to transition there. That's good. Let's do another transition, and this time we're going to pick not opacity, but we will pick, what did we affect? Our margin left? I think it was our margin left. Let's do it the same one, 300 milliseconds. Boom, and we can choose our easing. And now we're going to be slowly transitioning margin left and opacity. We should get, oh, and maybe we didn't put it on the right one. Are we doing that? Did we do that right? Transition color. Oh, the nav row. Let's try that again. Should get text typography font color. Yes, good. And do another one. Not opacity, but margin left. Good. Okay. That should work. It's not working. Do we have to do it on the hover state? We might have to do it on the hover state. Let's try that. Hover state. I forget how this works. Oh, that's right. No, it should work. Transition. Where are you at, transition? I'm at a loss right now. Where are we at here? Opacity, margin left, margin bottom. Oh, here we go. Let's do all properties. That's a lot easier. Let's trash these other ones. All properties. Delete. Okay. So that should, there we go. Okay. So we just had the wrong thing. I think we're actually affecting the padding, not the margin. That was the problem, right? Okay, so see how it's a little smoother now? We can preview and get the smoothness here. It's happening over 200 milliseconds. Okay, so that's really nice. Last thing we need to do is add our little highlighted bar here. There's some more complex ways you could do this. You could add like a div inside and make it actually animate. You could do lots. Let's just do the simplest basic version of it, which is going to be to add a border, a right border on let's see, on our entire row there. So it's going to be a border right. It's going to be, I don't know, like 4 or 5 pixels or something like that. And it is, let's start out with white. Of course, let's add white to our palette here. So it's going to start out as a solid line and it's white. Okay. And let's just change it so you can see really quickly. It's going to be blue, right? We don't want blue on everything. We want just white. And then we want to come in and we want to say, hey, show me the hover. And now we're going to change that from white to blue. We should have all properties easing in and out now, right? So even our little hover, our little line that's happening there. Beautiful. I love it. From here, you could create active states. And if you go back and watch that video that I did, it will show you how to do like the animations on everything. But basically, it's clicking on the nav row, coming over here to our interactions tab, and we're going to start like a new interaction that says, hey, on mouse hover, I want to start an animation, right? And maybe it looks like that. Boom. You can preview and create. Oh, where is it? Boom, something like that. I don't know. Anyways, so go watch the thing because I describe it like in depth about like creating that. But now we've actually built the layout, right? And you can see like the end result of it is here, right? We did the same thing over here. We got some nice hovers and we got the hovers on all of these elements as well. Okay. One thing I didn't do in that previous like build was add the color and the motion to these sidebars, but it's a pretty smooth little experience. And that is it. Hey, that is pretty much the end of our stream today. We did a lot of work. We talked design systems. We talked, gosh, what else did we talk about? We talked about Webflow. We did all sorts of stuff. We've been streaming for over an hour. And if you have not yet, make sure that if you're interested, sign up for my Dribbble course, but also look down in the description for the Hey Creative Discord server. It's a free server to join. We are doing a challenge in the month of April to build your own dashboard interface with some animated icons using those Lord icons, that Lord icon set. And all you have to do is do the design for it. You don't have to do the development for it, but build a dashboard experience. And 3 winners are going to win lifetime access to the Lord Icon library. Pretty cool. 3 winners, 3 prizes. Going to be super, super fun. Yeah, Tara Boo says, I got to go. My Dribbble mentorship is starting in a few minutes, which is amazing. That means she's going to go participate in my Dribbble 12-week certified product design course over at dribbble.com. You can sign up for the next cohort that starts in about 10 weeks. 40% off if you sign up right now. That's a great deal. Don't miss out on that 40% off deal. And that's pretty much it for the day, folks. I hope you had a great time. I hope you had fun on the stream today. I hope that you'll join me for next week's stream. We'll probably pick it back up with the Elden Ring companion app design, talk more about UI design, UX design. We'll be in Figma again. But if you have any questions, put them down in the comments below. Make sure that you like and subscribe to this channel. Hit that little bell notification icon so you know when more live streams like this go on. Right when they happen, you'll get an email, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.